Hello and welcome to the Fabulous Picture Show. I'm Amanda Palmer, and this week we're joined by Japanese, Swedish, American director Cary Fukunaga for a screening of his Mexican-made debut feature, Sin Nombre. Also on the show, we salute the fiercely proud and satirical father of African cinema.
En Espagne, je n'y vais plus. Pourquoi? Il y a trop de nègres. On ne peut pas faire un pas sans en rencontrer.
But first, he's probably best known as Mel Gibson's long-suffering partner in the Lethal Weapon films. But these days, Danny Glover is making his mark as an international political activist.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody.
Most people know about the heroic demonstrations and speeches of the American civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s.
I have a dream that all men are created equal.
But a new documentary that Danny Glover's helped produce salutes the unsung role of music in rallying those activists.
And it may be my last night.
We always know about the history of the music of slavery, but we've only ever known it sort of in the beginning, from slavery to the blues to the, to the emancipation of blacks with the Civil War. But I never ever saw it in this context. I never knew it was this important during the civil rights.
Well, it's interesting because the seminal struggle of people within this country of the United States, that struggle, it is the one that, if you look at it, it informs blues, informs gospel, informs blues and jazz and so on, and rock and everything else, to rap. You could go through history and use that music as a way of one's desire to be free.
What I find interesting with your career, a lot of people have known you from the Lethal Weapons.
Gonna die on the toilet, aren't I?
Guys like you don't die on toilets.
Okay.
1, 2, 3!
Throughout your career, you've kind of peppered in these films that have incredible musical origins. One of my great memories is The Colour Purple. I will never forget the gospel music of The Colour Purple and that song where she sings, "Sister, you've been on my mind."
Yeah.
Sister, you've been on my mind. Oh, sister.
The Color Purple was going to be done whether I was in it or not. It was destined to be done, I happened to be in the position at that time in my career to be able to play that role. The films that I'm happy about are the films like To Sleep with Anger with Charles Burnett.
No, mustn't touch. Your mother may not like you handling knives.
Or to do a film like Mandalay. That's a choice that I made,
Amazing film. Last one, Trey.
How dumb do you really think we are? Too dumb to build a ladder if we really want to get away.
Or for a film like Blindness. Now, those are films in which I think are beyond the curve.
Beyond the pale, for many in the US, was his support for the Venezuelan president, who openly mocked President Bush.
Él llegó ahí por ser hijo de papá. Lo fueron llevando. Fue un alcohólico. Ustedes tienen de presidente un alcohólico. Es la verdad.
But pledged to fund a film that Glover would direct about the slave revolt that led to the founding of Haiti. Do you feel a responsibility in your filmmaking decisions?
I don't. I think the responsibility for all of us to value this medium, just as Birth of a Nation, a film that people herald as a revolution in cinema technology and everything else, had a profound impact on people, black people in the country. It was the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan after Birth of a Nation and everything. It worshiped the demonization of black people and people of color. Just as that had played a role We can do films that can play other roles, which inspire people, which find ways in which we communicate with each other, which films that are about love and empathy and about courage in a different other way, and films that cross the boundaries between relationships. That's the kind of work I want to do.
And for the length of the song, the kingdom of the blind shrank to the circle of an AM radio.
The late Senegalese director Ousmene Sembene was widely regarded as the father of African cinema. And as we recently discovered at Africa's biggest film festival, he may be gone, but he's by no means forgotten.
Every 2 years, Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, hosts Africa's biggest film festival. And this year they honoured the legacy of an African filmmaking legend, the late, great Ousmene Sembene.
This festival would not be where it is if Sembene had not been around.
Sembene is like one of the village elders.
Sembene has operated at a high level of intellectual fidelity, speaking about Africa with an African voice.
A staunch socialist who trained at Moscow's Gorky Film Institute, Sembene regarded cinema as a potent political tool.
Throughout my life, I have to talk to my people. I listen to them, show them their situation, and I force them to take responsibility for their own future and that of their children and grandchildren.
His debut, Borom Saret, was a short film about a cart driver in Dakar. It was the first film made by a black African on African soil.
Qui chante les louanges de mes ancêtres, les braves guerriers d'antan.
And bears the hallmarks of his Soviet training.
The cart driver's medal falls, and then the cart driver leaned down to pick up his medal, and the policeman put his foot on it. It's exactly like a Russian film, you know, militaristic power, oppression.
Sembene controversially showed that even after casting off colonialism, ordinary Africans were still poor and oppressed.
Feu rouge, il faut s'arrêter toujours, partir, coucher. Ça, c'est la prison. C'est ça. Ça, c'est la vie moderne. C'est la vie maintenant du pays. Partir, oui. J'avance.
His first feature, Black Girl,
Luana, réveille-toi.
portrayed the exploitation of an African maid in France.
Nous ne sommes pas en Afrique.
And won him the International Critics Prize in Venice.
Je ne connais personne. Personne n'est ici de ma famille. Voilà pourquoi je suis leur esclave.
In Khala, Sembene launched a scathing attack on the greed and corruption of Africa's post-colonial nouveau riche.
Mais tu étais en voyage en Suisse ou en Espagne? En Espagne, je n'y vais plus. Pourquoi? Il y a trop de nègres. On ne peut pas faire un pas sans en rencontrer.
His work challenged traditional cinematic portrayals of the African. Khala was written for his own people, using their native language, Wolof.
From that point on, Sembene made it clear to all of African filmmakers that you must use African languages.
But he was no anti-modernist. His final feature, Mulade, reveals the horrors of female genital mutilation still endemic in Africa.
The field doesn't belong to me anymore, but to all African society.
It doit servir au mouvement des femmes.
And it must be used by women who struggle within this population to eradicate female circumcision.
Taking the top prize at the first post-Sembene festival was Taser, set in 1970s Ethiopia.
I wish this for African Union, for the people of Africa.
About a doctor dismayed by his country's descent into dictatorship.
I get you, man. We don't know.
It continues the political tradition of the great pioneer.
ጓድ አብዱላ አህመድ ከዚህ ፋሽስት መንግስት ጋር ተደርበ በመታደርገው ተግባር የሞት ፍርድ ተፈርዶባል።
ምን አልሽ?